We live in a world where artificial intelligence can compose symphonies, but millions still go to bed hungry, where we can decode the genome of a virus in hours, yet we struggle to understand the emotional pain of the person sitting right next to us, where telescopes can peer 13 billion years into the past, revealing the embryonic glow of the universe, and yet we fail to recognize the light in our fellow human being. How is it that in an age of unparalleled technological brilliance, we still feel so lost? This, to me, is not just a paradox, it's a cosmic riddle. We've split the atom, we've walked on the moon, we've mapped the structure of space-time itself, but in the stillness of our minds, in the quiet longing of our hearts, many remain adrift searching for meaning, not in galaxies, but in the mirror. We know how to build machines that can outthink humans in chess, but we've yet to master the inner game of fear, doubt, and self-worth. We can measure gravitational waves from colliding black holes millions of light years away, but we've yet to detect the tremors of silent despair that ripple through the soul of a neighbor, a child, or a stranger on a subway platform. This is the paradox of progress. The further we've reached into the cosmos, the more urgent it becomes to turn inward, not to retreat, but to awaken. You see, we've long believed that enlightenment comes only to the mystic in the cave or the monk on the mountain. But what if I told you the universe doesn't only speak in mantras, and Chauncet also speaks in wavelengths, neural pathways, and supernovae? That light isn't just symbolic, it's literal. That to be a light worker is not to glow in abstract spirituality, but to embody the physics of illumination, to be a conscious emitter of clarity in a world brimming with distortion. Now, I understand that light worker is a term often wrapped in mysticism, but indulge me as we reframe it scientifically. In physics, light is not simply a metaphor for knowledge. It is knowledge. The very first moment of the universe, the Big Bang, was not silent. It was luminous. We call the earliest observable radiation the cosmic microwave background. The faint echo of light stretched thin across the expanding fabric of the cosmos. Before planets, before people, before names. There was light. And if you're hearing this, if you're feeling this undeniable pull to do something good, something right, something true in the face of all this chaos, then you are that echo in human form. You are a vessel of cosmic afterglow, here to realign what is distorted, to bring coherence where there is noise. The world doesn't just need workers of light, it needs engineers of empathy, architects of awareness, technicians of truth. Let me be clear, this is not a call to idealism, it's a call to grounded, pragmatic luminosity. Because light, in the physics lab, is information. It's data. It carries with it structure, order, insight. So what happens when you, the conscious observer, the emotionally aware being, choose to carry light? You become a transmitter of clarity in the midst of confusion, a stabilizing force in a field of entropy. That's no small thing. That's physics. That's reality. Now think of the sun not just a ball of fire in the sky, but a thermonuclear engine, converting mass into energy at a rate of 4 million tons per second. And still, it radiates light across 93 million miles, just to warm a single rose petal, just to meet your eyes on a clear morning. That's what light does. It reaches, it doesn't need applause, doesn't need permission. It simply gives. So I ask you, what if your soul was wired with the same code? What if, embedded in your consciousness, there was a program not designed to conquer others, but to contribute, not to manipulate reality, but to reveal its beauty? What if the true mark of intelligence was not what you could extract from the world, but what you could illuminate within it? And what if, just like a photon, you were never meant to stand still? Because light doesn't pause. It moves. It travels at 792 kilometers per second, the ultimate speed limit of the universe. And yet, paradoxically, from the perspective of a photon, it experiences no time, no aging, no waiting. It simply is. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. When you live as light, you operate outside the clockwork of fear, outside the noise of doubt. You begin to experience timelessness not as an escape, but as presence. Now, I know these are poetic ideas wrapped in scientific language, but that's the point. Reality doesn't split itself between science and spirit. That's a human invention. The universe doesn't care if you're wearing a lab coat or holding a crystal. What matters is your frequency, your impact, your presence in this entropic system we call civilization. Because we are in entropy, aren't we? Rising temperatures, collapsing ecosystems, polarized societies, information overload, digital addiction, mental health crises. The more connected we become by wires, the more disconnected we seem to become by choice. And yet, here you are, still listening, still wondering, still caring. That's not an accident. In thermodynamics, there's a concept called negentropy reversal of entropy. Life, in many ways, is a negentropic act. It organizes, it structures, it resists chaos. And consciousness is the highest form of negentropy we know. So, if you've ever wondered why the world feels heavy on your shoulders, why you feel the pain of injustice even when it's far away, why the suffering of strangers stirs something unexplainable in you, it's because you are a negentropic agent. You were built not just to survive entropy, but to reverse it. You, my friend, are here to recalibrate the field, to turn darkness into data, to transform confusion into coherence, to take the raw, scattered particles of this modern world and rearrange them into meaning. That's what a true light worker does. And the world needs you now more than ever. You see, every generation believes it's standing at the edge of history's most critical moment. That's not new. From ancient empires to Enlightenment revolutions, humanity has always felt the urgency of its own time. But here's what is new. Never before has one species held the power to either regenerate or collapse the biosphere that gave it birth. That's us. You and me. With one decision, what to eat, what to share, what to ignore, what to invent, tilt the balance. The Earth isn't just a backdrop to our story. It is the story. A 4.5 billion-year-old miracle of chance and chemistry, cradling consciousness on a thin blue membrane we call home. And now, after 200 years of evolution, invention, and sometimes indifference, we face the quiet truth that will define our future. The planet will survive without us, but we may not survive without it. So the question becomes, what role do you play in this cosmic drama? This is not about saviorism. It's about stewardship. The stars are not looking to be rescued. They've been burning long before we got here and will continue long after we're gone. But Earth listens. Its forests, its oceans, its atmosphere, they respond. Not just to our technology, but to our intent. And this perhaps is where the role of the lightworker becomes not only relevant, but critical. Because you are not just a passive observer in this vast experiment, you are a participant, a variable, a conscious disruptor in the data stream of destruction. You are here to prove that awareness can be evolution's next great leap. So let's revisit this idea of light, not as metaphor, but as measurable energy. Every time you offer kindness where judgment would have been easier, every time you choose truth in a room fueled by denial, every time you refuse to conform to the lowest common denominator, you emit light, not figuratively, literally. Your heart produces an electromagnetic field. Your thoughts generate detectable patterns in the brain. Your emotions influence hormonal cascades that can affect not only your body, but the energy of those around you. Studies from institutions like the HeartMath Institute show that coherence when your heart, mind, and emotions align as measurable effects, not just on personal health, but on social harmony. So the next time someone says, you're too sensitive, take it as confirmation. Sensitivity is not weakness, it's bandwidth. It means you're tuned in. And in a world saturated with noise, those who can feel are the ones who can fix. But feeling is not enough. We must move from sensation to structure, from intuition to action. Because light, if not directed, diffuses. And this moment calls for laser precision. Ask yourself, what injustice burns in your chest? What truth can you no longer unsee? What habit have you been tolerating that you know is dimming your light? Because here's the thing, the universe doesn't ask you to fix everything, but it does whisper endlessly, relentlessly about the one thing you're uniquely positioned to change. Maybe it's your voice. Maybe it's your ability to listen. Maybe it's your art, your code, your science, your story. But whatever it is, know this: the cosmos never wastes energy. If you are here with breath in your lungs and questions in your mind, then the universe still has work for you. Let that be humbling. Let that be empowering. We are made of the same elements forged in ancient stars: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron, calcium, trace elements of gold, of copper, of uranium. Every cell in your body, every atom in your bones assembled by thermonuclear furnaces billions of years ago. You are not merely on Earth. You are of Earth, of stardust, a temporary collection of universal ingredients walking around asking eternal questions. And that's what makes you powerful, because the universe may be indifferent to our emotions, but it is deeply responsive to our consciousness. Consciousness is the anomaly in the data set of the cosmos, the glitch in the matrix, the mirror the universe holds up to itself. And to be a light worker is to polish that mirror, to reflect not just what is, but what could be. This is why darkness resists you, not because you're naive, but because you're effective. You see through it, you destabilize it. You refuse to pretend that cruelty is normal or that indifference is inevitable. You've noticed that, haven't you? That the more awake you become, the more pressure you feel, as if the very systems of apathy push harder against your joy, your clarity, your refusal to numb out. That is not coincidence. That is thermodynamics. Any force of order will meet resistance in a system tending toward entropy. Your light, your coherence, your compassionate threatens the status quo of decay. You are a threat to the chaos that profits from disconnection. So what do? You keep shining anyway. Not because it's easy, but because it's encoded in you. Because evolution doesn't ask the strongest to let it. Ask the most adaptive, the most resilient, the most radiant in times of collapse. And you, light worker, scientist of empathy, cosmic citizen you, are built for this moment. Built to question, built to reimagine, built to emit. And the universe is watching not with judgment, but with curiosity. Will you retreat into cynicism? Or will you rise with precision and purpose? That's not a rhetorical question. That's the experiment now underway. And the outcome, still undetermined, because the equation is not finished. The variables are still in play. And you, my friend, are one of them. If we zoom in now past the galaxies, past the atmosphere, past the surface of your skin, we arrive at a realm no less astonishing than the stars. Your mind, not the brain, per se. That 3-pound organ of fat and electricity is merely the hardware. What matters more is the software it runs. Because unlike a machine, your brain is not fixed, it is neuroplastic. It rewires itself day by day, thought by thought, experience by experience. Every time you repeat a belief, reinforce a pattern, or choose a response, you carve pathways, roads of electricity and chemistry across synapses, habits of mind that eventually become your identity. And here lies one of the most underappreciated truths of our time. Your perception of reality is not a passive reflection. It is a creative act. Every day, you wake up and rebuild your worldview from memory, assumption, and emotional residue. You see not the world as it is, but as you are. Your past filters your present. Your emotions edit the input. Your attention acts like a spotlight, illuminating certain data while ignoring the rest. So when we talk about light workers, we're not describing people who float above the mess. We're describing people who have realized the mess begins in the mind and that the first battlefield is internal. Because let's be honest, you can't illuminate a world you secretly resent. You can't uplift others if you're anchored in the gravitational pull of self-doubt. And you can't raise the collective frequency while running the outdated software of fear, shame, and scarcity. It doesn't matter how spiritual you appear. If your nervous system is still locked in survival modif, you're chronically anxious, reactive, numb, or overstimulated, then the light you carry never reaches its full wattage. But here's the cosmic irony. Your brain, despite its immense power, cannot distinguish between a real experience and one vividly imagined. Studies in neuroscience show that imagining a movement, visualizing an outcome, or rehearsing a new belief activates many of the same brain regions as actually doing it. In other words, consciousness hacks biology. Thoughts become molecules, belief becomes chemistry, emotion becomes structure. So ask yourself, what thoughts do you rehearse most? What stories do you tell about who you are? About what's possible? About the nature of humanity? Because every time you affirm a belief, I'm not enough, people don't change. The world is doomed. Your biology listens. Your endocrine system obeys. Your immune cells adapt. And your perception narrows, like a lens smeared with static. But flip the script even slightly, and the world reorganizes. Say instead, I am capable of changing, or there are people building a better world even if they're not on the news. Or even just, I don't know what's coming, but I trust I can meet it. Watch what happens. Watch your posture shift, your breath deepen, your awareness expand. This is not magic. This is biology tuned by belief. Now, imagine what happens when enough individuals reclaim that power, not to escape the world, but to serve it better. This is where the science of coherence becomes revolutionary. HeartMath Institute researchers have demonstrated that emotional states like gratitude, compassion, and love produce harmonious rhythms in heart rate variability. These rhythms, in turn, synchronize with brain waves, creating a state of physiological alignment known as coherence. In coherence, your intuition sharpens, your stress response softens, your decision-making improves. You become, quite literally, more intelligent, more resilient, more efficient at transmitting lighten, the form of clarity, presence, and meaningful action. Coherence, then, is not just a wellness buzzword. It is a prerequisite for planetary healing. Because incoherent people build incoherent systems. Fragmented minds create fragmented societies. Fear-based thinking builds fear-based economies, policies, and technologies. So if you want to change the world, don't just react to iTripad yourself. Synchronize, harmonize. Coherently broadcast a different signal into the field of collective consciousness. And that signal, your signal, will ripple outward. So let's zoom out, again, not metaphorically, but literally. If you were to leave the surface of Earth at escape velocity, break through the exosphere, and drift far enough away, you begin to see something astonishing. Not just the curvature of the planet or the glimmer of city lights at night. You'd see no borders, no divisions, no politics, just one living system of fragile biosphere suspended in the black velvet of space, clinging to life by a narrow margin of atmosphere and magnetic field. This is not poetry. This is physics. This is biology. The pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan once called it, is not simply where we live. It's what we are. We don't just inhabit Earth. We are Earth, composed of its elements, governed by its laws, shaped by its gravity. We're a biological expression of this planet's chemistry and time. And yet we've built civilizations that pretend otherwise. Economies that treat air, water, and soil as externalities. Institutions that reward detachment instead of connection. Cultures that teach us to conquer nature instead of cooperate with it. But when a species becomes too successful at separating itself from its own environment, evolution steps in not as punishment, but as recalibration. You see, in evolutionary biology, stress isn't the enemy. It's a messenger, a catalyst for adaptation. And right now, the stress signals are blaring. Rising sea levels, collapsing ecosystems, mass extinctions. These aren't just environmental issues. They're evolutionary feedback loops. The planet is giving us data urgent, unfiltered, and mathematically undeniable. So the question is no longer, will the Earth survive? Earth has survived asteroid impacts, magnetic pole reversals, supervolcanoes, and ice ages. The real question is, will we evolve fast enough to remain part of its story? That's where you come in. Not as a prophet, not as a savior, but as a conscious participant in a system on the brink of either breakthrough or breakdown, we tend to imagine evolution as something that happens slowly across millennia through the gradual selection of traits. But that's not always true. In times of environmental crisis, evolution accelerates. It moves quickly, non-linearly. It's not always about the survival of the strongest. It's about the emergence of the most attuned. And attunement requires more than intelligence. It requires awareness. Awareness of the systems you're part of. Awareness of the consequences of your choices. Awareness that we're not separate from the biosphere. We are the biosphere becoming self-aware. Now, consciousness, your ability to reflect, to empathize, to imagine future scenarios isn't just a feature of your mind. It's a feature of the universe expressing itself through neural architecture. Your brain is a local node in a global network of cognition and emergent property of stardust, organized into biology, tuned by time. So when we talk about changing the world, we're not talking about magic. We're talking about mechanics, about cascading effects in complex systems, about tipping points and phase transitions, about the moment when enough coherent agents within a system change their behavior and suddenly the whole system reorganizes. This isn't New Age wishful thinking, it's the mathematics of emergence. And if that's true, then every act of conscious participation, every time you choose empathy over apathy, clarity over confusion, truth over convenience, sends a ripple through the field. Not metaphorically, literally, through voice, through body language, through electromagnetic signatures that shape the tone of a room, a team, a culture. Think of yourself not as a solo actor, but as a tuning fork. When you vibrate at a certain frequency, others around you begin to harmonize a note because they're told to, but because that's how resonance works. So no, you don't need to change the entire system by yourself. You only need to become an anomaly of coherence within it. And yes, there will be resistance. Because every new signal disrupts the existing noise. Every new pattern destabilizes the old structure. That's how evolution always proceeds, not with permission, but through persistence. So what does that persistence look like in human terms? It looks like asking better questions when others settle for easy answers. It looks like deep listening in a world of shallow noise. It looks like holding on to scientific integrity when public opinion favors convenience. It looks like teaching children not just facts, but curiosity. It looks like designing technology that amplifies wisdom, not distraction. It looks like small actions repeated daily that compound over time into irreversible cultural momentum. That is how complexity shifts through feedback, through replication, through courage, encoded in behavior. You see, there's a misconception that large-scale change requires large-scale effort. But in physics, small forces applied consistently can destabilize entire systems. A single drop of water, repeated at a frequency, can carve a canyon. A butterfly wing beat in a chaotic system can trigger atmospheric changes halfway across the planet. This isn't mysticism. This is nonlinear dynamics. This is chaos theory. And in that sense, every choice you make, every sentence you speak, every boundary you hold, every idea you share is not isolated. It's systemic. It contributes to the probability matrix of what happens next. And what happens next is up to us, not in some vague idealistic sense, but in the measurable, trackable, testable reality of energy, behavior, and consequences. So when you hear the call to rise up, don't imagine a revolution of fists. Imagine a revolution of coherence, a rising not of volume, but of frequency, not of domination, but of alignment. A civilization that operates not by suppressing complexity, but by mastering it. Not by resisting entropy, but by reorganizing information in its midst. Not by clinging to static identities, but by evolving dynamic responsibilities. That is the challenge of our time. To realize that you, as one mind among billions, are not insignificant. You are part of a planetary brain that is just beginning to wake up. You are a neuron in a global cortex, firing new thoughts into the collective field. And the question is, what signal will you send? Because whether you like it or not, you are broadcasting something. So let it be something coherent, something courageous, something cosmically responsible. And when people ask you, what does it mean to be a light worker in a scientific world? You can tell them it means understanding that physics favors presence, that biology favors connection, that evolution favors awareness, that stardust, when arranged into a nervous system, can choose to care. And that, perhaps more than anything, is how the universe comes to know itself, not just through observation, but through compassion. You were born not to escape the darkness, but to illuminate it, decode it, reconfigure it. So risen not with certainty, but with curiosity. Not with perfection, but with presence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you refuse to stop asking better questions. The cosmos, after all, is still expanding. And so are you. So as we return from the outer edges of the observable universe, from the redshifted galaxies and cosmic background radiation back to this singular point in space and time where you are standing, breathing, thinking, realize this. You are not small. You are statistically rare, chemically complex, biologically miraculous. You are the result of billions of years of star cycles, planetary formation, chemical evolution, and biological trial, and error culminating in a self-aware primate with a frontal lobe large enough to contemplate its own existence. You are, in the strictest scientific sense, the universe becoming conscious of itself. And yet this consciousness is not for decoration. It is for decision, because the future is not written in the stars. The stars write no prophecy. They only burn. The future is written in you, in what you choose to pay attention to, in what you dare to question, in how you treat the fragile miracle of life around you and within you. Yes, we live in a time of turbulence, but turbulence is not chaos. In fluid dynamics, turbulence is a sign of transition, and systems in transition are ripe for reorganization. Evolution is not gradual when the environment changes. Quickly it leaps, it experiments, it recombines, which means this moment right now was not an accident. You being alive in this sliver of cosmic time is not irrelevant. You were born for this, to think, to feel, to see clearly and act wisely. You are not here to fix the stars. You are here to tend the soil. You are not here to dominate nature. You are here to align with it. You are not here to seek meaning from the outside. You are here to create coherence from the inside. And that coherence, when enough people carry itis, what tips the balance in physics, in consciousness, in culture? So ask yourself today, and every day that follows, what gravitational pull does my presence exert? Am I amplifying entropy or coherence? Am I replicating fear or recalibrating the field? Because the universe responds not to ideology, but to energy, not to slogans, but to signals. And in a world drowning in noise, the clearest signal, the rarest, the most powerful is a human being who is awake, aligned, coherent, calm not because they don't see the chaos, but because they've learned how to hold space within it. That kind of presence, it's not soft, it's not mystical, it's science, it's structure, it's survival. So rise not because you are certain, but because you are needed. Rise not to escape the laws of the universe, but to embody them with compassion. Rise not as a reaction, but as a response. A response to a universe that gave you atoms forged in stars, a brain capable of reshaping itself, and a heart beating in resonance with all life on Earth. The universe does not owe you meaning, but it has given you the tools to build it. That, in the end, is your responsibility and your gift. So go transmit something worthy, because in the silence between stars, the most beautiful sound is not thunder or applause. It is the quiet frequency of a mind choosing to awaken